Hey beautiful people, how's it going? It's Alex from Vulture Culture, and today we're going to be making a free Omnisphere Soundbank for mid-tempo music. Mid-tempo is a dark, gritty, atmospheric genre that has emerged just recently. Honestly, I've kind of fallen out of love with a lot of EDM, but mid-tempo's kind of gotten me re-excited for some of what could be done. It's a lot less cheesy than a lot of what's going on in the world of house music. So this is sounds, if you want to make music like Gesaffelstein, if you want to make music like 1788L, if you want to make music like Rezz, it's kind of in that genre. So before you even get started, you want to set your BPM to somewhere around 95 to 105, somewhere in that range. I think like the mid 100s is good. So here's a beat at 104. That type of sound, you know, that we've grown to love. It's also called like French dark electro or mid-tempo. That's kind of the type of thing. So all of the drum samples I'm going to use today are from the Ghost Syndicate Citadel drum pack. I'll link to that too. That's not free and I'm not involved with them at all. So, but it's awesome and I'm a big fan. So I've made a couple of sounds already here. One of the sounds that I made is sort of inspired by Rezz. But not exactly a ripoff. There's a bunch of libraries that have already done the sound from that song Edge. This is more like influenced by Rezz. So here's the bassline sound. Yeah, so that's a really like tough, aggressive bass line sound. And it's actually comprised of 2 layers. Both will be in the sound pack. So that's the first sound. I called it Rezbian because I love Rezz. Now we're going to hit this sound. And if you don't recognize this one, then you haven't heard any of the mid-tempo stuff. That should sound a little familiar. So yeah, if you Pursuit by Gesaffelstein, when that song came out, it like changed the music world. And so I wanted to do a sound that's pretty close to it. I mean, it's not like the exact sound, but it's definitely in the neighborhood. And I was actually worried about playing this because it might get hit by the YouTube copyright content shit. All of these sounds are going to be made in Omnisphere, and they're all going to be free. So anybody who has Omnisphere will be able to use them. And yeah, it should be fun. And you guys, and it's a hangout stream. So also, if you guys have any questions or if you guys just want to talk to me about anything too, it should be a lot of fun. Kind of just having a Friday night in the quarantine, you know, and you guys can see on my shoulder here that I have a nice quarantine farmer's tan. So that's happening. What's great about Omnisphere is it's really powerful, but very simple too. So what I want to work on a few patches would be things that we could use for more like keys instead of just bass lines. We'll do some more bass lines too, but I wanted to start with some key stuff. So Omnisphere has over 400 different wavetables in it, which we can use. So I'm going to go into the analog timbres and find a wavetable that speaks to me real quick. Actually, I kind of like this one, so why don't we just use this to start with. So the first thing I'm going to do is modulate this with an envelope. And I'm going to set that to about halfway. That way we can get something going. Now, if I crank this up really fast, it'll be annoying. One thing that I wish Omnisphere defaulted to was actually to start the oscillator at the 75% mark here. So we'd be at the bottom. So it'd be starting at the lowest part of the note. So if I hit sync and I hit note here, then it'll start every time that I play the keys. Well, oh, I see what's happening. I only need this to be about 50% of the way here on that. So it moves through all of the different shapes that are there, and we're going to increase the rate to maybe, let's see what 1.5 sounds like. I want it to go a little slower. So we get all of the different wavetables that are in here. So again, like if you look at this visualization here, you can see in this little window here, we've got all these different types of waveforms here. And so I wanted to sweep through that. Now what I'm going to do is add some unison. This is a new feature in Omnisphere 2, the analog drift. Now, just that simple moving through the waveform like that is kind of a little boring to me. So what I'm going to do is actually modulate it again with an LFO. And this time I'm going to do the exact same thing where I sort of put this at like the 75% mark. And I'm going to sync it to the note. And I'm going to pick a different speed. And I'm going to pick one that's like a dotted speed. So if we had, what do we have here? We have 1 by 1 and then this is 1/2. So now this will affect the shape as well. See how that's much more complex? And what's happening is both LFOs are controlling the same fader, the shape fader in this case. And so we can get these really complex sounds, you know. And we're going to add some release to this so we can get kind of a nice pad sound and increase the attack here. So it's really harsh up in those frequencies, which a lot of these digital wavetables are. So we're going to turn the filter on, and we're going to try that again. I need to disable the velocity here. So we're getting somewhere. We're going to, let's add a little bit of some effects to this. So I'm going to add some reverb. And in this case, I'm going to use a very, the spring verb because it is kind of old sounding. So, or maybe I won't, now that I think about it. Let's, because that's going to make it mono. So why don't I use that just on this? But add like a very nice retro synthwave type of sound to it. Very complex sort of sound. But what I want to do is I want to add something that's going to give it a little bit of, to help offset that a bit. We're going to go find ourselves a sample, and I really like using, if you look in the traditional area here, we have strings acoustic, and so I can grab some strings real quick that sound really great just out of the box. And so again, the sound is cutting off really quickly because it doesn't have any release. So as I add release here, and by the way, everything I'm doing here would apply to any other synthesizer. I'm just using Omnisphere because Omnisphere's the synthesizer I use. But if you had a synthesizer at home and you increased the release on the envelope, it would do the exact same thing. So I don't really need to add any attack because there's already attack in this sound. So, I mean, immediately that sound is very usable, and I love it for that. So now combining the two, I'll probably have to bring the synth down a little bit. So I'm going to blend the synth into that. So very 80s, very, you know, but I really like the sound of a certain synthesizer called the Korg Wave Station. And it was one of the first synthesizers to sort of use not exactly wavetable technology. What it was actually using was wave sequencing, which was there you could program it to crossfade between different waveform shapes. But that kind of sounds like what happens when you apply an LFO to a wavetable. And so I love these types of sounds. Now, just to make this sound a little bit more $1 million, we'll add another synth layer. I'm going to turn the other two off for a second just so we can focus on what I'm doing. And we're going to go into the classic waveforms, and we're going to pull up the D50 saw. This is another classic sawtooth sound from the 80s. One of the two digital synths I admire the most are the D50 and the Wave Station, so I love using those. So again, we're going to go into the unison. Add some drift. Add some depth. So I have a really big sound. And this sawtooth has a lot of high-end content to it. So again, we'll add some attack and release. So now we've kind of got these two synth layers, so I'm going to mix them together. You know what we might do is we might take this D50 and bring it down an octave, because I feel like this sounds a little, almost like brittle because of the wave shaping. Bring the attack down a little on that layer. So that sounds really good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little of the high end out. So I'm going to turn the key tracking off and the envelope off and turn on the filter. So now it's just listening to just this synth. Right now it should be all the way. So you can hear all the fizz at the top. I just want to take that fizz out. So about down to 5K. And so together again. There we go. So I'm just going to bring the strings back in. Sounds like the strings should actually be louder. So it's almost like it kind of reminds me of Stranger Things a bit. How about bring Hooper back? No spoilers, but... And we're going to make a bassline sound, so something really dark and fucked up sounding. So the cool thing about mid-tempo is that it definitely brought the pluck back, but not necessarily in a way that was the same way that it's not really like the industrial synth pop type pluck. It's a little bit darker, really fast attack on any filtering or anything going on, so it's a lot of fun. So anyways, we're going to go into the edgy category here, and we'll pick a sound. Also, I'm going to drop the octave just so it's easier to play on my 61 key. We're going to drop it another octave. Here we go. So we're going to come up with some cool... Ooh, really love that. Let's try some other ones. Try some other shit. Wow, that's a really jarring one. It's like in my head. Oh my god. One of the things that I've learned about these wavetables and Omnisphere is there's so much movement in them that a lot of times it's helpful to just pick a very small part of that. So I love... So right around there is where it gets that really high harmonic to it. And I love that. So what I'm going to do is modulate this with... you can modulate anything with anything in Omnisphere, but I'm going to modulate this with the filter envelope. And so what that's going to do is the same envelope that controls the filter is going to control this. So even though I don't have the filter on, I can still control it with this, which is useful. I use that a lot. All right, so I guess I should explain this. Whenever you hit a magnifying glass in this synthesizer, Omnisphere, it pulls up the actual, like what we're looking at. So there's a bunch of different envelope shapes in Omnisphere. And so what I actually picked was curve 2, so you can get this even tighter. That'll work. And for these really like digital sounds, we're going to turn velocity off of the amp envelope and the filter envelope. So that means no matter what amplitude I play on the keys, I'm going to get the same sound. So we need to get some dirt on this sound. So we're going to open up the wave shaper. So that just adds a little bit of volume, but what we really need is that bit crushing, I think. That sounds tough as nails. I really like it so that the sample reduction is on the same note as that harmonic. That's a big, badass bassline sound. Let's see how it sounds with the filter on it. We'll turn the key tracking off. So that's obviously a lot of little too much control. Let's try, so again, I'm going to hit the magnifying glass and jump in here. Let's pull up like a notch filter. That sounds tough as nails. Okay, so I'm going to control this a little bit, and the amp envelope, if I didn't explain this earlier, is the volume envelope. So I like getting these really snappy. So what that did was, by putting this decay down so I only have a little bit, like just the transient, the beginning of the sound. Now when I play this, and I boost it up a little bit to make up that volume, it's got more punch to it, so it kind of can hit you in the chest plate. So let's... Ooh, I like that a lot. That's pretty crazy that we have that type of a badass sound and we haven't even turned the unison on. So what I'm going to do is open up another... the thing about these wavetables is they can be very strange to work with because they're so tweaky with the harmonics. So in this case, we're going to go to the synthetic trance saw. This saw sounds to me the closest thing to like a saw in Serum. And we'll turn on the unison here. Just so we can have a little bit. Actually, you know what we'll do is we'll go into Harmonia. So this is the alternate unison engine. And we're going to do what I call like the fake stereo sound. So we're going to take both voices and pan them hard left and hard right, turn the analog off, and turn the velocity off here. So there's a really weird sound. It's like instead there's nothing in the middle and it's both on the sides, but it's not detuned at all. Which that kind of just helps so we have a little bit of that. So we'll blend these two sounds together. That is tough as nails. And it doesn't need a lot else, but we're going to add some extra filter or some extra oomph to it. So this defaults to 50, so we're going to just add a little bit of subwoofer push. I can't really hear 50 down in these headphones, so hopefully I'm not just destroying everybody's speakers. We're going to add a little bit of high end too. Something like that. Jump in here, and we're going to quantize this again. And let's see what we got here. Let's just hear just the synth real quick. Turn the beat off. Beep boops you shall have. Now, we're going to crank this shit out of that patch. We're going to turn off the other synth layers real quick. So all I have is this noise. Oh god, that shit's fucking annoying. Like tinnitus, the sound. All right, so all I'm going to do is just this kind of like high passed noise sound. We're going to just make a real like tight attack to it. And sometimes it even helps if I add a little bit of filtering just at the top. Something like that. So adding that back in. Just to add a little bit of presence to the sound. Steel wool? Yes. All right, so we're going to call this one RETRODARK. We'll call it steel wool. Bass. Just in case anybody gets confused. We can add a reverb in here. And for this trick, we're just adding kind of any reverb would work. So I don't really need to use the nice, fancy, expensive reverb. I can use the cheap, the easy verb in this one. So let me hear this. We're going to add a little bit of time to this. Like that. So we get like a nice ringing atmospheric thing. Like I love like a really nice metallic reverb for what we're about to do here. We're going to modulate this with the wheel. So you guys can see real quick that there's, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a mod wheel right here. So as I hit this sound, we can fade in and out the reverb to the sound. So if I did this right, on the last bar of that, it should fade that in. I'm using reverb. All right, so that's sounding a little tough. And now let's make a brand new sound. So the goal is to try to make a bunch of sounds for this. So let's make a, we need to have something that does call to the sort of dubstep-y stuff a little bit. So let's open up another wavetable. We'll drop this by a couple octaves here. And we'll pick another wavetable that appeals to us. So we'll go in the edgy category and we'll go to something like this. This one could be okay. Yeah, this will work. So this will be a good, how would I say, like it's going to work. So anyways, once again, we'll set this to 75% of the way through here. Sync it to the note, and we'll make the rate something like... Now for this sound, actually, let's bring this down about that. We'll bring this a little bit this way, so. What we can do is we can go into the wave, the mod matrix, and use the same LFO to control the cutoff, which is right now nothing, but if I... You guys can see what that does to the sound. In this case, I want to lower this a bit. All right, so you probably can tell what I'm about to do. Can I copy this preset? Yes, I can. So I'm going to copy the preset, move it to LFO2, and paste it. So we have the same LFO. We're going to change the rate to a different, some sort of dotted setup, and we'll go to LFO2. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to make it look the same, and we'll pick the oscillator synth shape and the filter cutoff, and you'll see that now we've got. I want a little bit more speed, so. There we go. So once again, we need to add some dirt to the sound. Cool. Let's see how it sounds at the amplifier level. Sounds really good. Just like a really nasty sort of sound. So let's see how this sounds, just that over here. If I was to just draw that in real quick. Let's take it like this. First off, what I want to do with this sound is to route it to that side chain. So we will route that bitch over here. So immediately that gives it the groove that it was missing. So what I did is I just copied that layer over. What we're going to do is, I'll turn the first layer off so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to go to Harmonia again, and we're going to set two detuned, or not detuned, sorry, two perfectly tuned oscillators to the left and the right. So here's it without the detuning, what we've been hearing. And now if I do it like this, what it's done is it's taken that same synth sound and it's put one in the left ear and one in the right, or one in the left speaker and one in the right speaker. So. And now what I want to do is actually go in here and actually kind of mess with this filter a bit and get a different sound. So if I go. Interesting. See if it happens if I went over here. Oh, we got some really weird sounds. So I could even load up the second filter and use this. Run them in parallel. That is bizarre sounding, isn't it? So anyways, we can blend that layer in. I'm going to detune it a little just to see what happens if we have some fun to it. All right, so we'll listen with the beat. So what we need is something to give it some attitude. So we're going to load the distortion in. And what we need to do is take a little bit of the body out. So we're going to find a low frequency and cut some, or a low mid frequency. So what I'm looking for is that frequency where it sounds really badass, and then I'll blend it back in. To the low end too. That's pretty good. We need to add just a little bit more EQ to the top end. So it's like it's a really complex sort of sound. $1788L. He's the, in my opinion, the undisputed king, at least among DJs and stuff. So. What I'm going to do now is drop this 2 octaves. We're going to use frequency modulation, which is a way for us to add sort of distortion to the sound without it getting dirty. Here's the sound, just the sawtooth. It's very, it's very kind of like small. Let's add the, we need to add some unison in here first. So you can add a lot of aggressive sound to it, just like that. And if you pick like a different If we go to 70.75 here, we can get a different type of sound. Whoa. Oh yeah, that'll bring it down, so let's go up. I'm a big fan of around here. Now let's add the wave shaper. Oh yeah, and by the way, we'll do the trick on the harmonia instead of the unison, where we just have the left and the right. Both all the way. So it's just really wide. That's my shit right there. We need to disable the analog. Maybe we'll try the unison. Yeah, the frequency modulation is where it's at. We can get really fucked up with the FM sync. We'll leave it like this for now. We'll turn the amplitude off here. Right, and then what we'll do is the usual trick here. So we'll turn the envelope off, the key tracking off, and we'll change this to a high pass filter. So we're getting a little thin, and then we're going to add a triangle wave to support the bottom end. So there's your like 1788L bass. And we're not using any distortion. And that's kind of, I think, a big part of the type of sound that you would hear from a guy like him, where it's like really clean, but it's also, no one would think it's not distorted, but it's not. So let's hear here. All right, so, and then what we can do is, of course, route this to the side chaining. For this, we might actually tighten the sidechain a little bit. Now, I think we need to get it a little bit nastier for it to sound like LV, so we need just a little bit more on this layer. Maybe we'll add just a little bit. Let's see what the flame distortion, what we can get out of this. I don't think that's helping at all. We need... Where's that toxic smasher? Okay. Where's the filter off? So we should be just listening to it. Yeah, alright. Where's the reducer? Maybe we'll use a low-pass filter up high. Use a lot of resonance. Yeah. More crush. Maybe none? There we go. sounds pretty tough, right? You know what I want to add is there's a sound from the song Destiny by 1788L. And let's look up the Dream piano, because I know that's the sample I'm looking for. And it's this great wonderful sample here, by the way, but got a little bit more release to this guy. Whoops. And what he did was he used some bit crushing, but then he brought the mix down. That's even a little too much. Actually, what I think I might need to do is turn the release all the way off. Like that. Make sure this is yeah, it's at the oscillator, so we'll turn the filter on and filter out just a little bit of the top end. Like that, so it's got a little bit of a gritty thing to it. And but we need to have a lot of reverb. And I happen to have a preset that I made called Ethereal here. And add a little of this. Just really beautiful. What we could do is turn off this and just use the distortion here. Instead of using a filter, we could try this. So. Beautiful. Maybe just a little bit of delay. We'll bring this down to like, I don't know, something like this. So that's a really awesome, so we'll call this LV-426 piano.